Hello, my name is Loosemore and I like talking about board games. I do a mechanism series where I look at some of the functions of how board games work, the mechanics or mechanisms that designers employ, the physical or mental function of how those games play out. And I was asked on one of those videos what other elements of design go into a game, that help me assess what I think of it and what makes it kind of the finished product, either a good one or a bad one, doesn't matter. And this was a question that kind of stuck with me. I told them I would go away and think about it and do some videos on it. So this is what this is. I'm going to do a series of design discussions, looking at some of the things that I think designers and publishers think about and are things that we as consumers should be considering to help us decide what games are for us or not. And so for this first one, I just want to look at what I think the main categories are. To me, there are 6 things that we'll talk about in more detail. Today, it's just introduction of what each of them are, that I think go into the production of a game. And the first one is mechanisms. It's not necessarily first in priority, but it's the one I already talk about, and so it's the easiest one to think of. Mechanisms, I think that is vitally important. That is the game. That's what you're asking players to do. So we'll talk a bit more about that a little bit, because as I say, I already do videos on that, so I won't do too many on that. The next one, which I really need to talk about a little bit more, is theme. And these are the two that really should, if there is one, kind of marry together. The mechanisms and the theme are the kind of 2 main things that you hear people talking about. So what is the game about and how does it play are the 2 kind of main design elements that I would assume designers think about first. I've had a little go at doing it myself. Theme is something I struggle with. And then we're into another 2 that kind of marry together, which is graphic design and art. Now, art is the pictures, and it might not have art, or it might have a little bit or more or less. We'll talk about kind of the utilization of the art. But then, there's different styles. Does that complement and suit the theme and that kind of thing? And then that married with the graphic design, kind of the layout of things, the board, player boards, the rule book even, symbology, those kind of things. How are we helping visually players access and play the game? So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So we've got theme and mechanisms, art, graphic design, and then 2 kind of much more looser ones, probably more publisher focused than designer focused, is the production itself. So the physical game, what is it made of? What's the quality of those? Linen finish on cards, plastic pieces, wooden pieces. What do we use? Do we have miniatures? Do we use standees? All of those kinds of things. Is there an insert? All this stuff goes into the physical production of the game, which creates an impression on the player. And which kind of leads me to that last one, which is audience. This is something that movie filmmakers need to think of. TV, art, YouTube, doesn't matter. You need to consider your audience. What is it they want, but also how are you going to connect to them? What are the things? Do you know who your audience are? What are the age range you want to accommodate? Is this just for 1 player? Is this for 12 players? What is it you're trying to achieve, and who are you trying to achieve it for? So I think those are the 6 things. So theme, mechanisms, graphic design and art, and production and audience. I think those are the 6 elements that we'll be talking about mostly. Sometimes how those interact and the interplay between those. Again, using some examples of games and giving a couple of my thoughts on it as we go along, but more to inform and give you some of the language potentially to help you think more about games and to enjoy them on another level. That was my journey in games, was playing them and they're fun, that's great, and then kind of the thinking about them and being a little bit more critically minded. Not everybody needs to do that, but just having some of that knowledge, again, I've learned from playing, but also from other YouTubers as well, that I appreciate greatly. Just having some of that thinking. So those are the things we're going to talk about in future videos. They won't be very long like this, just a quick couple of ideas, explaining a concept, giving some examples, some thoughts. So that'll be it. If you're interested in that kind of thing, do make sure you subscribe to the channel if you're not already, and hit the bell icon so you stay updated when I put out new videos. Do the usual things, follow me on social media, just search Win Some Loosemore on the usual platforms. You will find me. I hope to see you again. Thank you very much for watching. I've been Dieter for Win Some Loosemore. Goodbye.